And here we go. So I want to welcome everybody on to our weekly Market Makers Mastermind. Today, we are going to talk about something that's going to be really relevant. It's very emotional and painful for a lot of people out there. And we have an opportunity to get in front of a lot of these property owners to provide them solutions that our competition, other investors and other real estate agents don't know about. That's what we're going to learn today, is how we are addressing some of this pain, specifically with short sales. And if you're not familiar with what a short sale is, RH is going to be covering the bulk of today's education. And we'll be piping in, me and Chad. And by the way, if you have any experience with short sales, we're looking forward to hearing what you're seeing in your market at the end of this when we get to the Q&A discussion session of this. So again, today, we're going to work on, we're going to hear about one of the solutions that we're bringing to the table to help people who are upside down on their loans and help them get out from underneath their properties. Next week, you're going to hear us talk about some of those actual live case studies, along with other types of solutions that we're bringing to people who are not making mortgage payments. They're either upside down on their loan, and they're experiencing some financial pain and there's some urgency, but they can't get their properties sold. How do we help them and differentiate from our competitors and then create a referral base by providing some emotional relief to these kinds of sellers? That's what we're going to talk about today. And next week, actually. But today's more of an overarching kind of 30,000 foot view of short sales. We're going to be showing you how to plug into a free training, our short sale roadmap training that's going to be live here in the next couple of days. So all of you will get that for free. And that will walk you through some of the more particulars about what RH is going to cover today. So again, 30,000 foot view today, then we'll talk about it. And then we're going to show you how to plug into that free course, as well as get the recording today. And RH has a really juicy giveaway today. It's the most important part of doing a short sale, getting that approved and getting money on the backside of that.
Which you can find in the show notes.
Oh, what's that?
Which you can find in the show notes.
Yep. So look out in here, the chat window, if you haven't been in the chat window yet. If you have any questions, by the way, guys, we're going to try to keep this to an hour. If you have questions, we want to have a dialogue after RH finishes his little educational piece on the front end of this. And if you like to contribute or you have questions, just use on your control panel for the web conference, you'll see a little hand icon that you can click, and that'll raise your hand, and then we can call on you toward the tail end of this. In the meantime, we try to keep everybody muted as a courtesy so we don't hear a lot of background noises during our call. If you're not familiar with who we are, by the way, and why we're doing this, essentially we are a community of investors and of real estate professionals around the country who want to differentiate. We provide different solutions for buyers and sellers out there. So essentially what we're doing is redefining what a real estate professional is. A real estate professional is not the person who just puts a sign in the yard and lists something on the MLS anymore. It's somebody who wears an investor hat, who is connected, who has a lot of different clubs in their bag to help buyers and sellers that traditional agents and investors aren't doing. That's essentially what we do. Is we're here to help you every week to equip yourselves with solutions that other agents and your competition is not doing. We do this, like I said, every week. We're going to get into a rhythm here of starting next week, showing case studies of actual deals that are getting closed. These are listings that are upside down. These are listings that are not selling. They've been on the market for a bit. They typically always involve some level of urgency with the seller who has to get out from underneath the property, and listing agents and buying agents that are doing unique things, and investors to get these properties sold and solve problems for clients that, again, investors and other agents out there aren't doing. If you don't know who the hosts are, myself, Chad, and RH, we all have different backgrounds. We've done a lot of real estate developing. I'm not going to, do a little brag fest here, but we've touched a lot of different stuff, both as transaction experts with our real estate licensee hats on, and then as well as investors as well. So with that, guys, I'm going to pass the mic over to RH. He's going to share his screen and go into a quick short sale training, kind of high level, to show you what's on the horizon so that we can be proactive and address these issues early, as opposed to reacting to what's going to happen to us in the coming years. So the next 10 years are not going to look the same as the last 10 years, folks. And that's what RH is going to discuss right now.
Okay, thanks, John. Yep. As John noted, we've kind of been in the distressed asset investment side of the residential space for quite some time. We've probably collectively, between the three of us, been a part of over 3,000 transactions, probably all in the distressed space. So one thing we like to do as investors is we like to always have our finger on the pulse of the market. Every investment we make today, we have to be looking down the road to see how the market down the road is going to impact our investment that we purchased today. So we have a lot of foresight, a lot of foreshadowing, and you could just trust in the fact that we are constantly following the breadcrumbs and reading the tea leaves. So we're going to look at some economic data with respect to the real estate market and the overall economy today, and the opportunity it's lending itself towards as far as like a lead type for us to all attack and hopefully work in a down market. So as you can see, we're trying to dominate in a down market. We're going to do that through short sales, i.e. pre-foreclosures. This is before they go to the auction and sale. But real quick, who had their license in 2021? I don't know if we can do a show of hands, but is John, do we just have a couple?
So basically, who had their licenses before the rates went up?
Yeah, pretty much. But either way, if you had your license in 2021, you remember it like this, right? I mean, it was kind of inferno, hot, crazy. You're turning doorknobs and you were getting a commission for doing so. You weren't exactly a skilled agent, or you didn't have to be per se. But and we saw inventory hit rock bottom, and we saw prices shoot through the roof, right? 30, 40, 50%. Actually, in some markets nationwide, they went up 100%. And I've even saw YouTube the other day where it talked about maybe 200%. So really scary in terms of what that did to our real estate market. And then we kind of ran out of inventory, and it's, everyone was, the NAR and the realtor boards and the media was just saying, hey, the market's great, we just need more inventory. But then we saw that, this is just Florida, guys, and I apologize. I know some of you are not in Florida, so just kind of take this and make your own assumptions or parallels to your own market. But in Florida, inventory's gone up through the roof, and that 177 there is more like 180 today. That was just last week, so it's substantially climbing. And so it's not just about the inventory. We have plenty of inventory, but we're not getting transactions done. So we asked, how did the market respond with all the inventory? And simply put, it was pretty much crickets. But then NAR and the media said, well, okay, it's not about the inventory, it's about the rate. So just wait till rates go down and the market will shoot to the moon. Well, last year we saw rates go down almost a full point, right? And how did the market respond? Not a blip, guys. We didn't see transactions tick up at all. So to back that up, we know a poll recently was put out, or some stats put out for 2024, and 71% of realtors did not have a closing in 2024. 2024 was full of cricket. I mean, this is nationwide, guys, right? We know that this past July in 2024 was the lowest sales on record historically in the U.S. for a July. So sales were down. And then in 2024, it was the lowest overall in 30 years. So it's not about the inventory. It's not about the rates. It comes down to affordability, which we're going to look at. But even in 2025, guys, we're kicking it off. And look, I mean, we're all in here together. Transactions are low, right? You might know someone in your office that did a deal or had a closing last week or maybe this week, but it's not like 2021. So there's a lot of anxiety in our space at the moment. And this is kind of what it looked like, guys. You know, back in 2021, buyers were on the other side and they were high-fiving together. Sellers were like, hey, I'm selling way up here. And buyers are like, cool, I'm buying way up here, right? And they're high-fiving and doing a bunch of deals. But now there's so much pain in the economy and buyers being priced out of the market with respect to prices and inflation and rates and what have you, that now buyers are still buying, but their price point's way down low. So the most simple metric, guys, to follow at all is if real estate prices go up 50% and your incomes only go up 3 to 5%, and right now nationally it's about 3.5%, there's a huge inequity there in terms of affordability, right? I mean, we can all agree that homes just can't go up 50% every damn year. It's just that the math doesn't add up. So overall, this is pretty much in Florida, guys. These are easy stats to find in your own market. But at least here in Florida, guys, about 35% of the market is seeing 100 plus days, right? There's no buyers. The buyer pool is very low. Price drops 35%, back on the market 25%. So we're seeing we're seeing the stuff that does go under contract come back active on the market. And simply put, guys, and I've said it already several times already, but there's very little buyers. The buyer pool used to be substantial, and now it's down to like a thimble. And again, they're just being priced out. So we don't have a lot of buyer demand. And what that does is we don't have any transactions. So available supply of homes goes through the roof. And what that does is that puts downward pressure on pricing, right? The only way you're going to find synergy again between sellers and buyers is for prices to come back down to earth and buyers start buying again. So naturally, this is economics 101, simple supply demand. And this is what was probably going to happen. We're already seeing this happen in a lot of markets across America, including Florida. So I would simply argue that we're probably in the second or third inning of a substantial real estate market crash. If you don't believe that, if you've been kind of taking the bait from NAR or your broker or the media, listen, guys, NAR gets paid by new signups and new dues and stuff like that. So they want to stoke a hot market, right? They want the new agents to go out and kind of join the boards and pay the dues. Great. The media, they get paid on advertising, guys, and they do that by stoking anything and everything. So if the real estate market's hot and everyone's flocking there to get news on the market, and they see the CEO of Redfin just kind of saying, hey, it's great, we just need more inventory, well, they're selling ads. So everyone was kind of taking the bait for the last 2 or 3 years. And how do I know that we're probably in a real estate market crash? Is because, guys, back in 2006, I was turning doorknobs just like many of y'all probably were in 2021. And then 2008 came, and I was sitting there like loser Larry and just like freaking out, like, man, what am I going to do now? Right? So, history only gives answers to those who know how to ask questions. So as real estate licensees / professionals, and again, guys, we are in a real estate market. We are licensees, professionals. We have to act as such. Thus, we have to look at the data. We have to ask questions. We can't assume anything at face value. If the math doesn't add up, guys, you have to do your own testing out there. And right now, you know what's going on. So simply put, my real estate experience is back in 2005, I got my license in Tennessee. I'm an Orlando boy, native, but I did, after school, I went up to Tennessee and kind of kicked off my career in real estate. The market crashed, came back home in 2009 in Orlando, became a real estate brokerage owner and a real estate investor, okay? Then the market crashed. But this is where we started to dominate because we were playing in the distress space. And as a real estate brokerage owner, our little boutique brokerage, our goal was to buy assets, take title to them, analyze them, and then resell those to investors. Some of you may know the term is wholesaling, but we actually took title to over 1,500 properties in Orlando over about a 6-year time frame. We were doing about 40 to 60 closings a month when a lot of your largest brokerages and big teams, Winter Park, just think about an awesome market wherever you're at. Those teams were crumbling, okay? They didn't know what to do. And the reason I know the short sale space so well is because about 450 properties of those 1,500 were short sales that we purchased as investors to resell. So we know how to zig and zag in this space, what drives these opportunities, and how to get out of them. Our real estate companies, guys, and when I say real estate companies, I'm speaking on behalf of John and Chad and myself. We all own these together. But LMS, again, we're a professional short sale processing company. We are all CDPE designated, certified, which means we're certified distressed property experts. We're realtors. We're real estate licensees just like you, okay? We have investor agent, right? This is our buyer network. And we just have a lot of buyers, a lot of investors who are looking to buy investment opportunities. And our specialty is understanding what real estate strategies are out there, applying the analysis and putting a bow on it and explaining to investor how to perform that investment, make their ROI, and come back, rinse, repeat. And then, as you all know, we're here for obvious reasons. This is our market makers mastermind, which we love and glad everyone's here. So we're excited about building this as well. Guys, if you're on YouTube, this wasn't out there 2 years ago, but now it's crazy. So I value YouTube a lot. These thumbnails, these initial photos are here to kind of have some shock value. Guys, that's the YouTube game, but don't get it twisted. Inside these videos, there's a lot of amazing data, a lot of historical data that's backed, and it's not like shock and awe. It's like, it's well put together. And so I would encourage you to go on YouTube and find and kind of rabbit hole down some of these. But the outlook is not rosy, guys. It's like hedge funds are dropping prices, right? Everyone's saying it's the worst ever. Prices are going to drop 50, 80%. Foreclosures, nationwide collapse, right? Possible Great Depression, and Warren Buffett's coming out. He came out like, guys, these quotes I'm going to show here all came out in the last year and a half. But Warren Buffett said, get ready to lose half your money. Now, this is like the oracle of, right, like investing. Everyone, if you know Ray Dalio, probably the largest hedge fund globally right now, it's going to be worse than '08. And then you see Jim Rogers. They probably manage.
Hey, RH, are we seeing these on the slides, or are these just ones that? Because I'm seeing one slide right now, the Redfin slide still. Is that the one you're on?
What's going on? Did someone stop presenting?
No, it's still presenting your screen. I'm just seeing the one Redfin slide.
I don't know what's happening then. Let me re-engage on that. Sorry, guys. I had a bunch of slides I was kind of going through, but I guess that didn't work. John,
No,
you want to stop presenting? Maybe it's a.
I can. You can override me. There you go. What's up, Rex? Just saw your face. So yeah, I'm curious, guys. While we're waiting for RH to bring that up, there it is. Put in the chat window real quick if you believe that your local market is heading more towards buyer market territory, meaning the advantage in the buyer's court, or if your trajectory is towards a seller's market where things are going better for sellers in your market. Is it a buyer's market where you are, or is it a seller's market where you are? I'm just kind of curious because obviously it's real estate so local.
Okay, guys, I'm going to rifle through these.
Everywhere.
Obviously, 90 plus without a closing in 2025. This was kind of like the image I was talking about in terms of where buyers were and where they are today. Our overall MLS performance, buyer demand down, supply up, prices are going to come down, right? This was me. This was kind of going into my experience, our companies, and then this was the YouTube thumbnails I was talking about, right? And then we got into Warren Buffett, said get ready to lose half your money. Ray Dalio, worse than '08. Jim Rogers, they manage about 190 billion, right, in their fund. It's gonna be the mother of all crashes. And then who has seen The Big Short? I mean, I would imagine quite a few people on this call have seen it. Yeah, it's a great movie, great cast, but it's about Michael Burry, pretty much a real estate or trading savant, and he shorted the housing market, and everyone kind of goofed on him and thought he was a fool, but in the end he won. And he is saying this is going to be the mother of all crashes. History ain't changed. It's like '08. It's like watching a plane crash. So the savant who called out the housing crash in '08 is saying it again. So I don't know if they have an angle and why these big oracles in our space are saying this, but I would just argue the fact that these are just friendly caution signs. I guess it's hard to see a show of hands who was here or licensed in '08, but I was, and I know probably a few to several of you were, and we will never forget it. Just real quick, in terms of Florida, you'll see what the pricing did. Jacksonville dropped 40%. Orlando, our equity, home prices dropped 53%. Tampa, 49%. Miami, 52%. So again, a lot of the oracles think it's going to be like '08, and a lot of naysayers are saying, but it's different this time, right? We have high equity, migration, tighter underwriting. Guys, I would argue that the equity, and it's already showing that we've already dropped 300 billion nationwide in equity. Also, when people don't have any money and their equity is tied up in their real estate, they're going to sell, guys. They have to realize that equity and get a hold of that liquidity in some way. So they're going to sell, and they're going to sell at a very urgent price. So we're going to see prices fall because of that. But in terms of market watch, we're seeing price share of listings with price reductions. We've got three markets in the state of Florida in the top 5. I'll go back to that. So some of you, if you're in Denver or Tucson or Dallas or Portland or Austin or Phoenix, you can see where you're at on this map. That was just of April 3rd. Migration, guys, we've seen migration higher in the past, and 2008 happened. So when they told you about migration, and listen, that's specific to Florida. We had a lot of people moving to the state of Florida like Texas did, what have you. But the zip codes with the highest levels of migration now have the highest level of vacant homes. So they came and now they left. Okay. So look at this. So we're looking at 2006 versus 2021. We saw it go up, and we saw migration exit rapidly, just like it's happening right now. So this mimics 2008 in a lot of ways. Tighter underwriting, guys, the 5-year ARMs. In 2019, 1.7 million loans were written with a 5-year ARM. Guys, it's 2025. We're We're 5 years, 6 years in. So those are hitting now. And this CNN article here was talking about this homeowner where her mortgage went up $2,000. It wasn't just $2,000, it went up $2,000. So how many people, how many of the 1.7 million, if their mortgage is going up $2,000 a month, how many people are going to lock in and stay in their home? Not many. They're going to throw their hands up. They're going to bolt, right? So 2021, this is current day. So what happened, guys? Was the economy stupid? This is kind of a famous or infamous political quote. But let's look at the health of the economy with respect to savings, credit card debt, student loan debt, and auto loan debt. Just know all of these are kind of bucketed as consumer debt.
Hey, can I pause you really quick, RH? I think a lot of times us real estate agents in the real estate industry, we're very myopic. It's like a 200-foot view in headlights, and we can only see at night just the 200 feet in front of us because that's what the headlights are seeing. Beyond that, if you turn the lights on and zoom out, you see there are other signals out there. Like if you're paying attention to what's happening in the bond market, if you're seeing what's happening with the private equity the private equity firms that are putting tons of debt on the companies that they're just hollowing out and just running into the ground. If you look at consumer debt, sovereign debt, corporate debt in general, commercial debt on multifamily, on office, that is now resetting at much higher rates. And those banks are having to take these big hits or these owners of these properties. There are a lot of other signals that we don't pay attention to. And we're just like, a lot of times we have these conversations, agents like, well, this isn't '08 because we weren't doing those ninja loans and those that irresponsible lending, which created this fake bubble. It's not about that as the trigger now. It's a broader debt crisis that is going to indirectly affect real estate. And we're already starting to see it because of inflation, because incomes haven't gone up, and because you have a section of our economy. Remember, it doesn't have to happen to everybody. You only need 5% default rate, which we're already starting to see it inch toward, for you to have some kind of an epidemic. Repos, which he's going to talk about here in a second, are up 43% year over year. So if you're looking at just from a myopic real estate, I don't see this happening in now because we don't have these loans anymore, then you're not seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, I would say it's busting at the seams with respect to most areas financially. But just getting back into this, you can see savings, the blue line during COVID was everyone had just kind of flush. That's plummeted. You can see credit card debt spike, right? If we look at credit card debt, look at the red X here. That was 2008. So literally credit card debt, guys, has gone up 500-600%, 5-6x from what it was in 2008. All right. Student loan debt, 5-6x what it was in 08. 9.7 are behind on payments. 45% pulled, expecting to default. Auto loan debt, 500 to 600% higher than it was in 2008. Guys, in terms of the auto loan debt, and it's important to note, just like housing was back in 08, we had ninja loans, right? No income, no job, no assets. Fine. The auto loan industry did that today during COVID. So everyone was, if you remember during COVID, guys, couldn't buy a car, couldn't buy a boat. And it seemed like every woman had a Louis Vuitton on her shoulder. It was kind of weird that no one could leave their house or work, but people were flush with cash. That said, people were pretty much going on and getting ninja auto loans, ninja boat loans. And as soon as they drove it off the lot, they were claiming COVID. All right. And then they're getting a year forbearance. So those chickens are now coming home to roost. And to John's point, the repo market is on fire. It's crazy what that looks like. As you can see, it's jumped 16%, 2024, highest since 09, which is, look, that's a GFC. That's 2008, financial crisis. Over the last 3 years, seizures have surged 53%. And that's all due to ninja loans. So we're seeing a lot of pain there at the house. If we look at high interest rates, this is crushing mortgage applications for buyers, to buy a home, right? It's crushing the retail space. So mortgage applications are down 50%, pretty much 30-year low. As you can see here, it drops further and further. This is just February 5th, troubling sign for the spring market. Guys, spring market's supposed to be like our boost. It's supposed to be our indicator of how the year's going to perform. And they're saying right now our spring is not performing that well as historically. Guys, John, can you hear that in the background?
No.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. So we're not seeing a spring really kick off the way it should. So keep an eye on that in your local markets. High inflation. Look, January was the worst month in 4 years. In March, 3.5% jump, biggest in 6 months. So I know we're seeing reports of no inflation or it's come down, and that might be the case in April. But here in the first quarter, it was definitely present.
Yeah, it's also important to note, if inflation comes down, that just means the rate of stuff getting more expensive is halting. It's not saying that we're going backwards in price on anything. So until incomes catch up, just the rate of inflation going down doesn't mean that everything's getting more affordable. It's still unaffordable. It's just, it's not getting as unaffordable as quickly as it was.
Right. And guys, one thing you got to look at in terms of like the economy is obviously consumer spending is a big indicator, right? Like, are people out there buying goods and services? Well, if you look at Walmart, it's just kind of like a key indicator. It's a big box brand, kind of like known as having cheaper goods, right? So you look at people who are probably pinched financially, they're probably more likely shopping at a Walmart. If that's the case, Walmart is freezing hiring of non-essential jobs. Most jobs at Walmart are not essential, so they're locking that down. They closed 78 underperforming stores. They were to build 23 huge supercenters, delayed those openings, and they eliminated a lot of corporate jobs, 3,500. And if you look at this quote by the CEO, and guys, when you read like quotes from like the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, and even from a Walmart CEO, you have to look at every word. And trust me, these statements are curated very specifically before they release them. But preparing for a prolonged period of consumer pressure and economic uncertainty through at least 2026. So they're seeing pain this year and through next year. So to John's point, a lot of stuff's only going to get worse. And I think that's the same, again, second, third inning of a market crash. Things are unfortunately going to get worse before they get better. But all of us have a big opportunity because we're in front of this data. We understand where solutions need to be provided in our space, and we're going to be doing that accordingly. But you look at increased homeowner insurance, a 1 year change, guys, 14%. 5 year homeowner insurance has gone up 61%. This is nationwide. Florida leads the country in premiums. If you see your state on there, you can see where you stack up. Increased property taxes. Now, I think this data here, probably a 1% change, is a little light. The 5%. I think at least here in Florida, guys, we saw it go up substantially. But a 5 year change, 22%. Guy, I think you could almost argue that's the 1 year change. But here's a tax bill we found recently. I just thought it was interesting to put out here. But this house, guys, got purchased, didn't get fixed up or remodeled at all. But the tax bill is $2,300. Boom. Next year, $6,000. I mean, this is putting the pinch on buyers, and this is making buyers hold back from making purchases, right? And we look at unemployment, guys. If unemployment has gone up 14% year over year, mind you, it's not at 14%. It just went up and increased 14%. Every time it's done that historically, guys, our country without fail has gone into a recession. I would argue we've already been there, but we're at 21% year over year. That was 2024, guys. So we are definitely in a recession, technically, with 2 quarters of negative GDP. I would think, John, was that November 2023 we hit that. So, guys, if you want to look at unemployment further, you can go to layoffs.fyi. You can kind of like have fun going and look at different industries and corporate places and what they're doing. So is this another 2008? Well, look, guys, it walks and talks like one. So I would argue we are headed for another 2008, if not worse. As some of the oracles also said, please, we're no oracles, but we will lean into them in terms of this. But it is like 08 because it's an affordability issue, guys. Back in the day, everyone was able to buy all these homes with ninja loans. They couldn't really afford them. They just stated their income. They didn't have to proof it up. And so they really couldn't afford all the homes they purchased. And like today, they're just not able to state it or proof it up either. They just can't afford it based on all the economy. So it puts homeowners in this kind of situation. And this is here in the state of Florida, and there's a lot of other markets. But in the state of Florida, we're seeing a lot of Liz pendants, a lot of notice of defaults being sent to sellers like, hey, you're not paying your mortgage. We're coming back. We're coming after your home. So these are the sellers, guys, that I would argue are the most prevalent in today's real estate market. Unlike a regular retail seller where it's like a scratch and sniff affair, it's like, hey, yeah, I want to sell for 350 or what have you, and put this huge marketing campaign together, and I'll see if I want to sell. And then you go out there and you find offers at like 330, 340, and they're like, no, we want to sell at 350. Okay, that kind of sucks, right? Like, we know that seller doesn't have their hair on fire. There's not a lot of urgency there. Maybe, maybe not. But these sellers, guys, who are facing a foreclosure, they need instant help right away. Their hair is on fire and they're begging for a licensed professional to show up with a bucket of water and show them how to navigate this situation. So it's kind of what we do here. Again, some Florida data, guys, but since 2022, we've seen over 60,000 Liz pendants. Like, just consider these like a notice to foreclose to the homeowner. Like, hey, we're coming back after your home. So you can see how it tracks close to 2008. Yeah, 2024 didn't perform like 2008, but if 2009 is an indicator of what 2025 is going to look like, we're going to probably hit 30, 35,000, 40,000, this year. So we're tracking that closely. Between 2009 and 2015, guys, we saw 6.4 foreclosures nationwide. In Florida, 1 million of those. So again, Florida is a big boy. It's one of your foreclosure kind of big boy states. So again, it's another 2008. If it is, guys, it's kind of why we're here. It's why we're presenting this. There's a huge opportunity. I would tell you that little small boutique brokerage I had back in the day, the reason we were doing 40 to 60 closings a month, hands down, because of short sales. We were attacking pre-foreclosures because they were so prevalent. And if you weren't in that space, then you weren't doing the needed volume that you probably wanted to do. So pre-foreclosures, short sale listings, either on the listing side or the buyer's rep side, are going to do you wonders. So yes, that's your big opportunity. A short sale listing agent. You can get in front of these homeowners that need your help, list their home. Guys, you can sell the home for less than what is owed on the mortgage. We'll talk about that. But if you don't know or understand short sales, it's not a problem. Let's just briefly hit what a short sale is. It's pretty much when a homeowner can no longer afford their mortgage payment. They're late. They're behind 90, 120 days, what have you. They're dealing with some sort of hardship, i.e. a job loss, a divorce, right? Some kind of medical, and their home is underwater. It's worth less than what is owed, right? So they just feel like, oh, like here, like they owe 300, but they can only sell it for 200. And this is when the lender approves a homeowner to do just that, to sell for less than what is owed on the mortgage. Hence, hence the term short sale. Yeah, John, go ahead.
Yeah, and to pause on there too, that a lot of short sales don't look like that. That's how we saw a lot of them look during the financial crisis, when 70% of what was on our MLS was on its way to foreclosure as a short sale, pre-foreclosure, or it was already foreclosed on and the bank was trying to get rid of as an REO listing, right? So that was the majority of our inventory. Today, you know what a short sale looks like more than not? It's that property that is listed for $405,000 that the seller owes $380,000. So they don't necessarily owe more than the property is worth. But if the property's been on the market for 100 days, what's the next step for the agent? They're probably going to recommend a price reduction, right? Sellers expecting that, showings have fallen off a cliff. And a lot of you on this call are dealing with these right now. Property's not selling. You're going to have that tough conversation with the seller that you're going to have to do a price improvement. But with that price improvement, after commissions and closing costs, the seller's going to have to bring cash to closing to make the loan whole, because now you're not going to make them whole after at the closing table. So now you're getting into short sale territory where they bring up the cash to closing and they don't have that cash, a lot of these sellers. So if you're in that scenario, you've literally price reduced the property into short sale land, because otherwise you're not going to sell the property. You would have taken the pro photos, done all those open houses, run across town all those times for nothing. And you lose a listing because it was overpriced and you're chasing the market down. That's happened a lot with some markets like Poinciana, DeLand, Davenport. I know a lot of you guys are dealing with those areas. So if you're in a saturated part of the market and the seller's chasing the market down, they don't have a lot of equity. I mean, we have one right now where they only owe $350, but they have a $30,000 equity line because they couldn't afford life. So what they used to put on a debit card, they got to put on a credit card now, and then they have to tap into the equity on their home. The property's worth maybe 400, just under 400. So yeah, they can sell the property for more than what's owed. But when you consider sale costs with commissions and closing costs, They don't have the cash to bring the closing. That's a short sale. That's what they're looking like more than not today.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the listing needs some sort of repairs or credits plus commissions plus closing costs and it puts them underwater, we're just seeing a lot of sellers have to come to the table with 10, 20 grand to get out of a mortgage, where a short sale, they can just go ahead and wipe that debt clean.
Jihan or Gigi asked, who pays that shortage? Well, a short sale, that's what LMS does. We get involved in that transaction to get the bank to cover the shortage. So they're taking a loss on the loan because the seller doesn't have the cash. And the alternative would be the bank would have to go to foreclosure. And we're building a case to the bank. They're better off taking this deal and taking a loss on their loan than they would be if they foreclose on the property and kick those people out on the street.
Yeah, guys, it costs a lender anywhere from $20,000 to $80,000 per property, per asset to foreclose. So it behooves the lender to do a quote unquote workout, i.e. a short sale, okay, with a seller and a professional processing company like LMS. So how do we find these sellers? Well, as mentioned, you'll have to go into your, we all know of like third-party data sources, PropStream, Batch Leads. On your MLS, you might have Remime. I'm not sure what you're leveraging to find Liz Pendens or Notice of Default, NOD type leads, but those are leads to attack and to stay up to date on those. These are homeowners, again, just receiving this in the mail, and after 120 days of being late on their mortgage, they're receiving this, and after another 120 days, they're usually going to have a judgment hearing, which is then going to like technically make it a foreclosure. So here's kind of what that looks like. Behind on payments, 120 days, they're going to receive a Liz Pendens. We call a notice of default, guys, in the state of Florida is called a Liz Pendens, an LP. And then again, another 120 days after that is a judgment sale date. Guys, this is when a pre-foreclosure technically becomes a foreclosure. It's not when it sells at the auction that like most people think. It's when this judgment happens at a hearing and the gavel strikes and awards judgment to the plaintiffs, okay, which is typically your lenders. That's when it's a bona fide foreclosed situation. And then, yes, they will schedule the hearing date, the auction date to sell the asset. But as professionals who want to leverage these sellers and help these sellers get out of a bad situation, we have to do so before the judgment date. So we can't let this lead type sit and prolong itself to where it gets foreclosed on, because once the house or the homeowner gets within a 30-day window of the auction sale date, the lender will pretty much deny or not want to do a workout, i.e. a short sale. So we want to make sure we get it outside of a 30-day window of the auction sale date. Okay. Again, guys, most these Liz Pendens in Florida are publicly recorded. Most NODs, notice of defaults, as they're otherwise known in other markets, are publicly recorded. I know Texas, they are not. So anyone here in the state of Texas? No? Okay. Well, that's good, because if you're in Texas, then you don't get notice of an NOD or an LP. So you wouldn't know who to attack or who to approach. But in most markets, they are public recorded, so you will find them on a third-party list.
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
You are? Okay. Are you identifying these currently, or are you thinking about doing so?
I'm definitely thinking about doing so. And so there's been a couple of lists that I've been trying to find them on, but I'm open. Anybody else is in Texas, I'm open to learning how to find them exactly. So,
well,
Jay Huck,
what's going on?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing good, Chad. I'm doing good to be here.
There's one list that's really unique in Texas, and Roddy's, RODDYS, they actually have a proprietary process for getting the data 2 weeks prior to any other provider, but they kind of crack the code on how pre-foreclosures are recorded in the state. But no affiliation with them other than my friend owns the company. But if you're in Texas and you want to grab that list, Roddy's is a really good source. And you'll see right now in the Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin metros, and San Antonio especially, you're seeing a drastic increase in delinquencies and 90-day defaults.
Hey, Jonathan, I would love,
absolutely,
if you want to troubleshoot that and circle back and let us know what that looks like, that'd be great, because I've talked to agents in the state of Texas, and If someone's able to crack that code, because here's the thing, it's not required for lenders to publicly record the notice of default. Now, the sale date, when that happens, that does have to be publicly recorded in the state of Texas. So most agents and most investors are attacking the seller or racing to get the seller's business once the sale date is publicly recorded. So it's a tough market to be in and to identify that. And again, I don't know how Roddy's or anyone else would be able to find that data if it's not a publicly recorded event. I'm not sure, but I would love to see how someone could crack that code. So Jonathan, good luck, man.
Thank you. And Chad, one more time again, it's RODDY apostrophe S.
RODDYS.
Okay.
I'll drop a link in the chat.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
So guys, likely scenarios for a short sale. I mean, the obvious one is where they're already underwater, they're not paying, and they need help, right? They need some sort of listing agent to explain to them the benefits of a short sale, and hey, I can help you. Situation two is what John kind of touched on, is where selling puts the homeowner in a negative position. And that example is kind of this. They're just trying to sell. They've got a mortgage balance plus any kind of repairs and credits, plus commissions and closing costs, and boom, they're now bringing 10, 20 grand to the closing table to get out of a mortgage. Whereas short sale guys, they get to walk away scot-free, okay? Like in theory. So benefits of a short sale, they get to sell for less than what is owed on the mortgage, right? No out-of-pocket expenses, guys. They don't have to fix the house up. It is that the contracts must be on an as-is contract. So they're selling in an as-is condition. The seller's not responsible for any closing costs or commissions. The lender pays the closing costs, and typically, currently, despite some of you being in California, we're saying all lenders still pay the listing and the selling agent commissions, okay? The debt in between, and I think that was referenced earlier, that debt is forgiven. That's called a deficiency, and in most short sales, that is waived, okay? And if this is used as a personal residence, the homeowner / seller could receive up to $10,000 in relocation assistance. So, guys, instead of bringing 10 to 20 grand to the table to get out of a mortgage, the seller might actually pay them $10,000 as kind of like a cash for keys to help them on the next chapter of their life, okay? So other benefits, guys, more time in their home. They can avoid a sheriff's eviction, neighborhood embarrassment. They can save their credit score. Unlike a foreclosure, bankruptcy, or deed in lieu where it crushes your credit score 7 to 10 years, a short sale, simply 2 to 3 years, guys. You can be mortgage ready to buy another house again in 3 years with some good credit repair. Again, the lender will forgive the debt, and they're off to a fresh start. So there's a lot of great karma that comes with doing this as a licensed professional and helping out sellers. Guys, I would argue that as a licensed professional, this is hands down the easiest listing. Yes, do they take 90 to 100 days to finalize a transaction? It does. And we do a lot of the heavy lifting in LMS for you, and we'll get into that. But guys, there's no haggling over commission, no haggling over the purchase price, because you can set the price below what is owed on the mortgage to entice or appeal to a buyer. There's no pre-listing repairs, no marketing needed on your end. There's no closing costs for them. Guys, this is just some of the top short sale listing agents in the state of Florida. Guys, they do a screenshot, a screen capture of a Google Street View. One photo, that's their listing photo, done. It's not open house, baked cookies, none of that, right? So I do have any kind of Q&A on any of this at the moment. Or we're going to wait till the end, John.
Yeah, we actually have a couple from Laura and Tina. Laura was asking, how long is it taking in the state of Florida for the lender to start for the foreclosure sale to happen from the time that they start the foreclosure lawsuit, which is when they record the Liz pendants? And then the second follow-up question from Tina is, are the lenders during the short sale process honoring the commissions, or are they pushing back on them?
No, yeah, so good questions. So it's kind of this term that's floating around in the state of Florida, at least, but they're calling it rocket docket. So unlike back in 2008, where lenders and big Wall Street money they were operating very wonky and didn't know how to kind of like process a short sale or get in and out of these kind of distressed situations, they're on point today. And once the Liz pendants or the NOD is issued, they're trying to set a hearing date 4 months, 120 days from that date, get an auction date set, get the judgment, and do something with this asset. They don't want a bunch of vacant zombie properties laying around like they did in 2008. that answers that one. Now, with respect to the listing or any of the commissions, if you are the listing and the selling agent, they may push back. They may only offer or pay you 5% or 4%. But no, I mean, we're seeing a lot of 3% and 3%. You know, we're not seeing much pushback on that at all. So,
And I want to share a workaround on that too. The first time I discovered that in 2011, I was, just my brokerage. It was another agent from my brokerage. So it wasn't dual agency, which I never participated in. It was designated agency. But because both the buyer's agent and listing agent were in the same brokerage, they started pushing back on me. So I went to a flat fee brokerage and just made a deal with the broker where I would throw him a bone to represent, to write the buyer offer. So if you find yourself in that situation, leverage your agent network. Like just look to your peers or to a broker that has, especially if it's like an off MLS, like a commercial brokerage or something where you have two clearly different, like brokerage A and brokerage B. And that was a workaround for me that allowed me to stop the commission haggling conversations.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So as shown, we are a professional short sale processing company. We've done over several hundred of these successfully approved transactions. So again, we've purchased a lot of them investors. We've negotiated, facilitated a lot of them as a company. We know how to zig and zag. We know what's needed at every step of the process. We are 100% free service for you or for all listing agents and your client. Okay. The way we get paid is the lender either pays our processing fee or the buyer pays it. The lender doesn't pay it, then it's passed on to the buyer as a closing cost. But the buyer just bakes that into their offer amount as a closing cost. So, before they submit their offer, they account for that as a closing cost, submit their offer, no big deal. At LMS, guys, again, 100% free. We'll do client consultations. If you have a client that's hesitant or needs more clarity, schedule a consult. We'll hold them by the hand. We'll make them feel comfortable. We'll get your listing agreement signed. Listing guidance for us to you guys. We are brokerage owners. We're real estate licensees. We know what your public and private realtor remarks should look like. We know what attachments you should have, what your listing should look like. We can provide some guidance there. Of course, you want to check that with your broker, right? Or verify all that with your broker, but we can give you a really good head start. We handle all the file management coordination. We handle all lender communications, guys, and document facilitation. All right, we are the only point of contact, the direct point of contact with the lender. We put the whole lender package together, and we just provide you with timely updates and what's needed from you. And we have a never quit attitude, guys. We only get paid one fee, one time, and that's if your listing closes. If your listing gets over the goal line and actually closes, that's the only way we get paid. So we're incentive based. If buyer 1 falls out and buyer 2 falls out, and we need to run it buyer 3 through the lender again and do the whole file all over again for a third time, we will do that. Okay. We want to get your listing closed. And of course we want to get paid as well. So we have a never quit attitude. Guys, our team, we're brokerage owners. We're licensed professionals like you, and we are CDPE designated. We are the hub to all the spokes, guys. On any given short sale transaction, this is all the parties you can kind of assume are part of a transaction. Guys, we know what they need, when they need it, how much of it they, whatever. We know this space from every angle. So we are an amazing hub to all the parties, and we handle that coordination pretty efficiently. Guys, if you were to put a picture as far as short sale processing, that's us digging the hole. Okay. It's a very thankless job. Everyone's like, hey, give me an update. When's it closing? When's it closing? And we're just like, we're getting there. Like, we have to keep digging, right? But this is pretty much what it looks like, guys. We handle everything. We do all the heavy lifting, and these are all the parties. And again, we just provide nice updates. So if you want a free expert professional short sale processing service at your fingertips as a processing arm of your real estate business, guys, you can always go to shortsalestart.com. Okay. As you can see in the top middle there, you can schedule a consult. That's a 30-minute consult with me. You can do a new file start, and we have amazing FAQs to help you out further.
Hey, RH, can we leave it on that screen? And then for the sake of having time for Q&A and everything on the back end, let's kind of jump right into the giveaway that we have. Can you explain that to the group really quickly? And then we can wrap that up, and then we can go into kind of what we're going to be talking about next week with actual case studies. These are actual properties.
Okay, so let me go back to this slide here. Guys, the most crucial part of a short sale, okay, is, and again, what I showed you that image of the sellers and buyers, the big disconnect in terms of seller expectations. They want to price up here and buyers want to buy down here, right? Well, that's no different with a lender and a buyer buying a short sale. The lender still wants up here and the buyer wants to pay down here. So how do you bridge that gap for a successful short sale transaction? Well, I created a document called a consideration of value. We call it a COV. All right, Charlie Oscar Victor. And guys, it's pretty much a rationale. It's an offer rationale that you and your buyer can fill out. It pretty much states your case as to why the offer amount is $200,000. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna give a free giveaway. Chad, I believe it's gonna be in the show notes or some path to get there. But this is our COV, and that QR code in the front is our website. So if you need to, submit a new file, what have you, you can do that there. But guys, just because it's a short sale, it doesn't mean you're going to buy it for $200,000 when they owe $300,000. You've got to state your case as to why you are offering $200,000. Like, listen, it might need $70,000 in repair, right? And then you've got some holding costs, and you've got some other miscellaneous costs. So therefore, you're offering $200,000, and here's why. So our consideration of value document is going to allow you to identify the issues with the house. On page 2, there's a place for a bunch of comps you can state, and there's an area for additional comments. So we want to make sure we get that in the hands of the lender and or their representative who's doing the BPO valuation, and they understand the buyer's position. So again, we don't want to go through buyer 1 and buyer 2 and buyer 3. We want to properly set up buyer 1, and we want to get this thing closed. So we're thinking of everything. I mean, again, this comes with just a lot of experience, right? Whether we've negotiated them or bought them as investors, we know what's important and what needs to be argued. So we think this document is kind of like your it's the savior in terms of the whole short sale process. So if you get into short sales, please leverage this, but don't make the mistake. If you retain us as a service, a free expert service, we're going to make sure you get this in an email when we start the file anyhow. So whether you have this now or not, just bring a file to us and you'll have it down the road. Okay.
Yeah, and keep in mind too that, guys, it's one thing to have a short sale listing. It's completely different to actually get a buyer and then get that listing approved by the lender. And this is the #1 tool that helps get those approved, assuming it was listed at a realistic price. And then now that begs the question, well, if I get a short sale listing as a licensed professional, how do I know how to price it? What do I put in the MLS? What are some of the distinctions on that type of listing, servicing a listing like that, as opposed to a traditional listing? If that's not something that you're familiar with, we have a free course. A lot of you have seen our pre-foreclosure profits course. We're rebranding it to the short sale roadmap course. It's a free video course that we're going to give to everybody. We're going to announce that in probably the next day or two. So the most important thing is, if you're not in our Facebook group called the Market Makers Mastermind Facebook group, if you're not in that group, get into that group, because that's where we post the recordings for the ones that you can't get to, or these weekly calls that you just can't listen to the whole thing and you can go back and rewatch. We're also going to post there where you can download the consideration of value document right here, because it will either make or break that short sale approval from the lender, so you can get that closed, as opposed to you losing that buyer because the lender was too proud about their price and now having to put it back on the market, wait for another buyer again. So if you want, it's the reason that we have such a high approval rating on or a high percentage of our short sales approved, because we know how to properly value those properties in the eyes of that lender. So you can actually download that file. We'll show you where to get that in the private Facebook group when we post the recording from today. So be sure that you're in that Facebook group.
And John, don't forget, you can obviously follow us on social. This slide, I have it up on. Just if you, I don't know if you're able to share my screen again, but yeah. Anyhow, guys, our handle is short sale start. Yep. And then again, that's our website. So follow us on social for content. Obviously, you can follow us on our Facebook group page. our market makers and our short sale start public Facebook group page. And then that's pretty much it, guys. Some good content on there and what have you. So that's it, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that, we're coming up on the hour right now. So if you have to log off, feel free to do that. Again, the recording will be posted on the Facebook page next week. By the way, we're actually going to be breaking down case studies of different ways, not just short sales, but different ways. They'll include short sales. They'll include creative financing. They'll include stuff that started as a short sale that we kicked over to creative finance listings and got those sold for sellers. So we're going to be talking about all the creative ways that we're helping people who are missing mortgage payments, who feel financial pain, who have some sense of urgency to get out from underneath their houses, all motivated sellers, how we're solving those problems and getting paid in the process and sidelining our competition while we're doing it, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. We're getting kind of a rhythm of actually doing more case studies. So we're seeing firsthand tactically, okay, how was that actually getting done, soup to nuts? What's the story of the seller? What's the story of the buyer? How the agents connect on that particular deal or invests? And how do we get that actually closed for the parties involved? If you're not in the private Facebook group, or I'm sorry, the public Facebook group, this is what the banner looks like. So you know you're at the right place, but it's the Market Makers Weekly Real Estate Mastermind Facebook group. It's free, obviously. And that's where we post all the recordings. And those recordings all have a free giveaway. They're kind of like old cereals, where in every cereal box there was a toy. In every recording, we try to get creative on some really juicy free value, some tool that'll help you get from point A to point B with your clients that your competition doesn't have. So we're going to offer something juicy at every single weekly recording, and we post those on that Facebook group. So that's where you kind of stay in touch with everything. And then we're also going to text you too. So with that, guys, thanks for joining us today. While we're on our Q&A right now, is there anything that anybody has questions about that we didn't address during the call?
Hey, John, real quick, I'm going to sign off. I have a hard stop at 2. I just
All
want to thank everyone for hearing me, give a song and dance, and hope you found some value out of it. Hope it encourages you to identify this lead type. Visit us at shortsalestart.com. We look forward to helping you out, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Okay.
Thanks, RH.
Thanks, guys.
So with that, does anybody have any questions about anything we covered?
John, where do we get a copy of the COV again?
Just stay on the Facebook, check in on the Facebook group page, and the next day or two when we post this recording, it'll be on the page where the recording is. You just put in your information on there and hit submit, and then it'll take you to where you can download the file.
And you'll also be able to get access to the course short sale roadmap, and we'll make sure it's included in there too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Guys, to piggyback on what we briefly discussed a couple of weeks ago about that seller I have who doesn't have a mortgage on the property, and we're trying to figure out a deal with the builder for his new home. Is there any way to get one of you guys on the call with the builder and me, just to kind of explain what that could look like?
Yeah, if you go to my page, my calendar, you can go to john.investoragent.com. And I'll put it in the chat real quick. john.investoragent.com, and then
I'm on.
Use the discount code so you don't have to pay to get on the calendar.
Okay.
I just put it in the chat for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Check with the time that's good for him, and then we can book a call.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Any questions from anybody else?
Tina had a question. She said, will the buyer receive a 1099 for the amount of shorts, the short amount? The buyer does not receive any tax documents in a short sale. The seller will receive a 1099-C, which is taxed as earned income. Now, as we come through this correction, you're likely to see government intervention on that. Like you have the Mortgage Debt Protection Act of 2007 or something along those lines, but that expired in 2013. And what that did, that protected a seller whose primary residence was part of a short sale. They would in fact get the 1099-C, but there was an exemption, so they weren't actually taxed on that spread as income. That has expired, and right now it hasn't been replaced with an exemption, but it's likely to be as the defaults set in. But no, there's nothing your buyers have to worry about ever as far as tax implications.
Good
And
question.
I think that's everything in the comments. There is one other thing. I didn't want to interrupt RH and his flow, but something big happened yesterday in this space, guys. Like FHA mortgage delinquencies, meaning 90 days or greater delinquencies at the end of 2024 were already 11.3%. That has continued to rise. They haven't published official numbers, but I've seen unofficial reports that that number's closer to 14, 15 now. So we obviously have a lot of pent up distress in the market. And the reason you haven't seen that come through in inventory, it's upwards of 1 million homes that are seriously delinquent with FHA loans. The reason you haven't seen that inventory is because of special programs that were set up as part of COVID-19 relief and the rejuvenation of like FHA HAMP. So what came out yesterday was a letter to borrowers from HUD that goes directly to every Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac note holder that basically says we're sunsetting these programs. We need to move assets through distressed markets, and we're going back to the way we used to deal with this. So we're going to encourage and make short sales easier, but across the board. People are going to finally be held accountable for their defaults. So the last day of any of these programs is September 30th of 2025. So starting October 1st of this year, you're likely to see a flood of this defaulted inventory come through. Now, it's too soon to tell whether or not these will be packaged into non-performing note portfolios and sold off to hedge funds, or if they'll trickle through your market, or if you'll have a surge of them in your market. Like we don't know the intent of the note holders right now, but over the next quarter, we'll keep you updated on that. But it's very likely that the overall mortgage delinquency, serious delinquency rate is below 3% right now across all loan types. VA loans are more closer to 5%. They have a special servicing program where they're essentially moving defaulted VA loan debt over to the Fed balance sheet the same way that they have been for FHA loans. That one was not noted that it's going to be discontinued, but it looks like the highest default rate is obviously an FHA, and it looks like the protections are sunsetting by October 1st. So whatever market you're in, you're likely to see this because those are national numbers. Basically, FHA loans that were originated in the last 5 years are seriously delinquent at a high rate. And what's interesting is despite all the government effort and the loan modification programs and forbearance, the subsequent default rate is also sky high. So with the effort of trying to push this debt out, re-amortize it, lower the rate, actually have debt forgiveness on the note, that is just not working. So I think they're finally realizing the market will always find equilibrium. It's about time we let it. So October 1st is that date. And I'll drop a link in the show notes. If you're watching this online, you can read the actual HUD letter in the show notes.
Awesome. All right, guys, if there's nothing else, appreciate you jumping on. Hey, let everybody know we're doing this every week. MMMweekly.com is how they sign up for it to join us. And we'll see you guys next week, if not sooner. Take care.
Thank you.